Good day, Sven the Slayer here once again, and welcome back to Starmade. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the differences in salvage module types and comparing the numbers to get a good idea of, what the power levels of each and every type is, and whatnot. So, I did many tests for this, and I tried to eliminate as many variables as possible. So, there's currently a bug in the game that different beams going at the same time will salvage at different rates. I'll actually demonstrate that to you later. So the first thing I did was dock different cores, so each beam is on its own core and everything else is controlled through wireless logic. The next thing is, through previous testing, I know that logic-fired beams and manually operated beams don't seem to run on the same schedule. So I did some various testing to determine what delays I should actually run my beams at. That's not the right one. So if we run over here, try not to look at the planet because that lowers my frame rate. I'm actually docked to a planet far enough away that we don't have to be anywhere near or at least render any of it. So this is first of all, I wanted to point out to Aylad and his videos. I will actually link his videos into at the end of the video and in the description, because his videos are really the inspiration behind this one. So in his last test, he actually used a storage counter, and I wanted to point out to him that storage clocks actually run on 9 seconds and not 10 seconds. So you see that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 1 at the end to demonstrate that this one's restarting while that one's on there. Which, interestingly enough, he thought he was counting 30 seconds when he actually was counting 27 seconds, I believe. Interestingly enough, it is more similar to this testing than he would expect. So I set up this thing to actually count the duration of the beams. So we have here is, let's just turn it on, and you see that the beams will run and then shut off and then run again and then shut off. So this way I learned that the salvage and damage beam is actually running for 3 seconds. The straight salvage is running for 3 seconds and then actually has 2 seconds off. And the big guy here, the salvage pulse is, we'll have to measure that one, whatever he is. And I did have inconsistencies of the salvage point, so that's 14 seconds. So that you can see that that should be 15, but it's not. And you can see that this is 14 seconds here, which should be 15. So between this beam being on and the next beam, it should be full 15 seconds, but it's actually 14 seconds. You see it's turned on and it'll be off there. And there's a little bit of timing. It's not perfectly set to the half seconds, but it's fairly close. And you'll see here that as soon as it gets to this green light, it's on again. So this is very accurate, at least as far as you can get to the half second. The problem is that the damage pulse seems to change just about every time I ran this test. So I would clock it in once, and the next time I ran the test, it wouldn't line up. But stock and the damage beam ones seems to all obey the same timing. You see now it's still running, and this is indicated that it should be off. So from a previous test where I actually lined it up, and I don't know what causes that. Maybe lag. There's some kind of desyncing issue there. But this was a good base to figure out exactly how long I wanted to run the thing. So I actually run mine for 28 seconds, I believe, or this would be running for 27 seconds, but I have a 28-second timer on this. I think I might have done it previously with 20 27 seconds and 28 seconds. I've done a bit, but the race test is not a good test. But I wanted to do the race anyway, so let's just run that test right now, and we're gonna have to hop out for some of this. So this has the different systems racing and getting a bit of an FPS drop there. That's interesting. So that might affect the test. Oh, I'm getting... And the test should be over soon. So I had this half one here because there was some people thinking that the slave didn't actually add any power, and this was just to prove that the single slave is, or no slave is always weaker than having a slave, and you get more power by having a slave and doubling it up. But there's also other interesting things. So here we have our first set of numbers. So in a 30-second test, or 28-second test, see that we got 136, which is actually 4.5 blocks per second. 136. So these two are performing identically, and I'm pretty sure I didn't pop out the side here. This block here is fairly large. Oh yeah, there's one thing. So I was saying the different beams salvage at different rates, which you can see clearly when using the shotgun size. You see that one of the beams has dug in far deeper than any other beam. So if you're testing multiple outputs, this will skew your results. I'm not 100% certain if it actually varies between different computers, but it might. So just in case, that's why I have different entities firing their beams separately, just to make sure I eliminated that. Because it's a pretty big difference here that one hit from the shotgun is really going in deep, and then, here's another one that's, fairly deep. It looks like might be two here. Yeah, this one ends here. That one goes all the way down in there. So that's a bug with the game. That'll be patched eventually. Every beam from this shotgun salvage should be salvaging at the same rate. But that explains the individual entities here, and might explain some of the variation in the depths of the beams through Aylads Tests. But yeah, this is also build block right here, so we gotta go up. So here we have 136, so those are identical. This one we have 79, so here we're already seeing the some problems. That's only 2.6 over the 30-second time, so 2.6 blocks per second is not good at all. That's not even what it should be getting, anywhere near what it should be getting. But we can account for some of that later. Here we got 101, which, if you've seen Aylad's video, you'll notice that number is identical to one he was getting. That's what we expect from this one. And this one we got 143. So 143 is 4.7 blocks per second, which is close to this number, which is what we would expect from this system. For 3 cycles anyway. So that is the logic test, and running the test through logic is just like, wow, these salvage cannons are very weak. It shouldn't be that weak. So I actually got in touch with Landcake, and I was talking to him, and I was just like, should all salvage systems be identical in power as long as their size is the same? And he verified that is the case. The way the master, slave, weapon, and salvage systems and other systems in the game is every weapon and salvage system should be the same power if the block count is the same. In the case of weapons, it's 10 DPS per module. So that's across master, slave, and tertiary, every block you add should add 10 DPS to the system. And power is another thing that's also takes outputs into account, but DPS should all be the same. So talking to him, he's just like, oh, you shouldn't do your test via logic because of issues with that. So I decided to do some manual tests, and just using a stopwatch isn't a very accurate way to do it. So I came up with another solution, which I will go over in a second. My other test was, with logic, was to do single shots and actually count the amount of blocks salvaged for a single shot. So this one would do 66, 101, 11, and interestingly enough, the salvage cannon is a 3-second cycle, so this fires 5 times in a 30-second period, or 10 times in a 30-second period. Sorry, my math's a little off. Compared to the salvage and damage beam, it should fire 5. Compared to the pulse, it should fire 10. So that was this button down here. I don't need to do it because it just verifies the numbers, which I already know. This one gets 11, these ones get 22 per their cycle. Oh, we need to clean up that guy yet too then. So for this one, we need to do not 150. Oh wait, it was 22 wide, 21 wide. That was cranked all the way up, and I had to crank this guy up to 50 to make sure none of the beams shot out the side, and prepare for some lag. Not too bad. And the last thing we need to do is clear the chests here, 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 and here. So the reason I have these extra computers here is to run a race between the various systems. So one thing that I guess not a lot of people know about beams is if you fire a beam while holding shift, that beam will fire its complete cycle. So if we jump in here, hold shift and click, that beam will fire its entire cycle. Move over to this one, shift, click, that beam will fire its entire cycle. So that gives us a convenient way to verify that the logic versions of these were at least doing right. So this one was 72. I've never seen 72 before. Huh. That's, I cleaned it out. Let's do that again, consistency is key. I've never seen that one get... Something got confused, but there we see that 101 again. This is staying. I'm hands-free, it's still firing. And then, of course, it has the cooldown. Yeah, 66. I don't know why that got 72. That was weird. 66 has been consistent. Sometimes I've seen 65. But that gives us a good base to say, okay, that's accurate. And we also get down here, let's run I guess we can run the 15-second test first. So if we run this test against competing things, so we hold shift, click, and then immediately hit 1, we can actually start counting manual shots. That was 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one. So here's where it also gets interesting. You notice that this one did 11 in a single click. We now get 44 even though it ran 5 cycles. So our efficiency is going down. But it's still better than when I was running it by logic. When I was running it by logic, it was even weaker than that, I think. Let's clear this, and let's reset the board. So compared to the damage beam, it is definitely weaker. at least across a single burst of the damage beam. I don't know how that changes over time. Maybe after two cycles of the damage beam. Well, we can test 2 cycles of the damage beam, and we're actually going to do that. But over time it might vary. But the problem is you can only test for so long because you run out of materials. So now let's link this up to the pulse. That block. Actually, did we clear that? Yeah, we cleared that. So now we do the same test. We hold shift, click, and then hit 1 right away. So there's 1, 2, we should get 10, 3, 4, 5, that's halfway, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 1 more. 10. Those were not nearly as close as they should have been together. And, wow, we got even 90. That's interesting. The last time I ran this test, I actually got 100. So it was neck and neck with the 101 of the pulse. So this is what we would expect to get with the 44, 45 of the previous test, which is interesting. I think this is the first time I've actually seen a 90 out of this since I've run this test. I've run this test several times. But that is still proving that the salvage cannon is weaker than it should be. Because, of course, 90 over a 30-second period is only 3 blocks per second, which is weaker than every other block that we've gotten. So then we can jump over here and do the test with this one, just to verify our timings. So if we hit that and then hit 1 immediately while holding... Well, actually, it doesn't even matter if we hold shift for firing that first one, because it'll automatically start to reload, regardless of whether it's on constantly or not. But holding shift allows me to let go of the mouse button ahead of time to make sure that I'm not firing. Actually, it doesn't really matter now that I think about it more. I'm not counting these clicks, but it's a 5-second time on this guy. 3 on, 3 off. So here we see we got 133 over 30 seconds, and that would be 4.4 blocks per second, which is verifiable by the single tick, or the single pulse. And of course we could do that for the 15 seconds, but I don't think I need to be sitting here running these tests in front of the camera all day. It would be half. It should be half, because it is half as the beam is half as long as the pulse. At least the cooldown is. And over here we just, kind of do the same thing for here. So we have that wired into the computer there. Wow, that's got some phantom connections there. It's from deleting things. Can't wait till that bug's fixed, because I can't actually eliminate those phantom connections. Oh, I got rid of that one. And do the test one more time, so we all, well, I guess I don't need to hold shift, but it allows me to fire, immediately click over to 1. See, that was 1, 2, 3, of course it's going to be 6 cycles of this thing for 5. And I actually did record a clip of me firing the salvage cannon combo, and used a video editor to verify that it was 3 seconds. I actually counted the time between the beam hits. So there we go, we got 133 again, which is of course 4.4 blocks per second. And let's jump into this core real quick, see what the pattern looks like. So yeah, this is a completely different pattern than the other time. So we have a long one here, a long one there, and a long one here. I've seen it go just one straight out the top. This used to be 22 or 21 by 21, and the 30-second tests was just shooting it out the top, so I had to increase the height of it. And oh wait, it did shoot out the side. Or it's still close. That's actually the first time I've seen one go out the side that way. But it was probably the end of the beam anyway, I hope. I don't really want to repair this block too many times. Each test I've been running it, it's produced the same results whether it's poked out the side or not. So I don't think that was actually poked out the side for any amount of time. But this pretty much proves that the salvage missile, straight salvage, and salvage beam are identical in how much they salvage. They're all salvaging for the full 15-second times. Of course, this one's firing in for 14-second cycle, so its block count with blocks per second was a little higher. And that might affect it over time, so maybe logic is the better way to go. But for something like salvage beam, you'd need this, which it fires it constantly. So straight salvage, 4.4 blocks per second through the various single shot, 30 seconds, 15 seconds. I guess maybe I could run tests for longer if anybody's like, oh, what happens if you run it for 90 seconds or something like that? I'd probably shoot off my board or not even be in range of the target anymore. So straight salvage, 4.4 blocks per second. That's what we should be getting, I guess. Salvage missile, 4.4 blocks per second, but you got the inaccuracy, so you can't pinpoint it. Salvage beam is getting the 4.4 blocks per second, and it's fast. In 6 seconds, it's completed its entire consumption, and then it's basically off for 9 seconds, or 8 seconds rather. The salvage pulse is getting only 3.3 blocks per second, so it is actually less efficient than the other systems. So I'll be directing this video to Landcake, saying these are the results of all my tests, manual and automatic, and the blocks per second of the salvage pulse and the salvage cannon is actually lower than the competitive options. But between salvage straight salvage, salvage missile, and salvage beam, they're all 4.4 blocks per second. So this is the crazy testing I've done for this, and I did quite a bit of testing for it over and over, and my results have been fairly consistent within a couple blocks, other than that 172, the 72 I got of that one. That was weird. It's the first time I've seen that, but anything can cause something like that, like a lag spike or something. Who knows? This game has, quite a few of those. But that'll be it for today's video. I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.